Welcome to the Learn Flute podcast. This is episode 28. I'm Rebecca Fuller, and on today's podcast, I'll be helping you learn how to store your flute in different seasons.
You can do it, and Rebecca will show you how, step by step all along the way. Introducing the Learn Flute podcast.
Well, welcome. I'm looking forward to today's subject because I think it's something that you may not have thought about before. Now, I live at the top of Utah in the mountains, and we definitely have 4 distinct seasons here. Now, depending on where you live, there are some different ideas we need to talk about that affect the actual condition of your instrument. So let's get started. Let's start this discussion out by starting in the winter season. Now, where I live, winter means freezing temperatures and lots of snow, which is really great for skiing, but it does mean something different for the instruments in my house. Now, I may have mentioned this before, but my boys play several instruments, and we have string instruments as well as wind instruments in different rooms of our home. Some things that you may want to consider today is the actual space where your instrument is stored on a daily basis, or even for long term. It does affect whether it stays in good condition or not. For example, we have heater vents that blow warm air in the winter and cold air in the summer when we have the air conditioning turned on. And our climate is actually dry, quite dry and arid, even though we do get a lot of snow in the winter. Now, when the heater vents turn on in the winter, this warm air is circulated through the house and it actually just dries everything out. My lips, my hair, and my flute pads. Now, something I have to be careful of is to not store any of my instruments directly over or near any of those heat registers. The last thing we would want is for our flute pads to dry out and crack. Now, I can tell you that cracked pads are no bueno for flute playing, and that's what causes leaks and yucky tone. It's actually quite expensive to have your pads fixed and replaced on your flute. And many times, if all the pads are having problems, then you can just assume that your flute is totaled, just like a car would be after being in an accident that damaged several of its parts. If your flute is not super high quality, you'll find that a repair job like this will cost even more than you paid for the flute in the first place. And that is kind of sad news, I know, but it's true. It's all right, though, because you have me here to give you the tips and hints on how to keep that instrument in great condition so that this never, ever happens to you. I actually own probably 14 different flutes, and I would say that all of them are always in very good playable condition because we just know how to take care of them here. And the next thing that you need to know about your flutes and the winter season is that the freezing cold weather is very bad for your instrument as well. Never ever leave your flute in the car overnight when it gets really cold. Now again, I'm drawing on the experiences I have here in my own climate. It gets to about 20 below 0 Fahrenheit quite often here in the winter, and if I allowed any of my instruments to stay in that frigid air, you can imagine what would happen when I tried to blow warm air into them. You can think of a windshield cracking. I think that probably will do it for imagery today. Now let's move on to the next season here, which is spring. We do get a lot of rain here, but not nearly as much as they do out on the west coast, which is probably really only about a 10-hour drive. Rainy weather causes its own issues with instruments as well, particularly the flute and those ever-important pads that I've been talking about. Flutes that haven't been properly cleaned daily after playing them will have all that moisture inside the case all day and night, and, until it's opened and played again. And after time, you can imagine what happens. Yes, it's mold. I've actually worked with several students on their green or bluish or pinkish flutes. It's definitely gross, and moldy flutes do not play well either, as you can imagine. Some climates are super humid all year round. If you live in one of these, just remember how important it is to clean the inside and polish the outside of your flute daily. It's just something that goes along with learning how to play the instrument. So get used to it now if you're not already. The next season is summer. Now here where I live, summer is really hot. Well, it's hot for me anyway because I enjoy cool temperatures even more. Now, we get temperatures that are even over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, usually in July and August, and this makes for a lot of fun recreational activities and boating on the lakes. But again, it's another challenge for being a flute owner. This heat is very damaging again to the pads on the flute. Our heat is very dry here in this climate, and I don't need to really do anything about the humidity levels for the pads, but I really have to watch out when I'm traveling with my instrument in the car. Now, I think you're probably all aware of how hot a vehicle can get on the inside when the doors and windows are closed and the sunshine is streaming through. Well, imagine taking a quick trip to the grocery store on my way to practice the flute or somewhere else. Now, if I didn't take my flute with me into the store, by the time I came back out, the inside of my car would be around, I don't know, maybe 140 degrees. The reason this is so damaging to a flute is because those pads are actually glued on to the underneath of the keys. And when the heat gets up to these types of temperatures, it just melts. That glue will melt, the underneath of your pads will slip, and occasionally they could even fall out. And this would be one of the very worst things I can ever imagine. So the tip here is that a quick trip to the grocery store would be even better for your flute if you take it in with you. So you can put it in the baby basket with the seatbelt if you want to. Now the seasons to talk about here, we only have one more, is fall or autumn. And I really don't have any complaints at all about autumn. The weather is incredible here, and the beauty cannot be even outdone or rivaled by anywhere in the world, I'm pretty sure. The only thing I have to think about with my instrument during these fall temperatures here is that we like to take our instruments outside with us, go hiking or to the mountains or whatever. Now, my reminder to my students and my other instrumental friends is that placing their flutes on the ground or even on the grass is a complete no-no. Seems common sense to me, but I'm always surprised when I see the marching bands out for practice and the flute section has their instruments placed on the ground while they practice their different lines. I have wanted to get out and rush over there and save them. Well, that about does it for today. I hope you find this podcast valuable. In fact, if you do, it would be really great if you could leave a comment and a rating on this podcast so that the directories will know its value and recommend it to others as well. You flute friends are my favorite, and I hope to see you again very soon for a lesson inside the members area over at learnfluteonline.com, which is the perfect sequence to learning how to play the flute beautifully and fast. My lessons are all online, and I take painstaking detail in making sure that the lessons are in a step-by-step manner so that you can succeed always. We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening today. Remember that this is where people of all ages, such as you, can come, learn, and play the musical instrument flute in an easy-to-follow, organized manner, and in the privacy and comfort of your own home, on your own schedule.